The U.S. is on an unsustainable fiscal path, says Scotch on the Rocks booze breath Jerry Pow Pow. Got Bitcoin? Bitcoin, crypto, morning tea, hey. Good morning, everybody. My name's pianomattyb. That is Scaramucci's. This is your morning TA. A brief glimpse into the crypto markets where the sun's shining, where the winds blowing. All the humble opinion of this piano Zamboni ringing the The FOMO index has jumped up to 64 from yesterday's 60. Bitcoin dominance is 51.2%. 24-hour volume is 42 billion. The overall market cap, 1.65 trillion. Give or take 100 million. Well, here's the good news. We hit a February 2024 all-time high. The bad news is that it's 11% down from January's all-time high and still wedged in our channel of eternal monotony. But fun fact, we spent 7 months of 2023 in a 10K-ish tight range. And we are now entering our 3rd month in this tight range. Do you have another 4 months in you? At the end of the day, it's not like the day of the halving. The price explodes up to the moon. In fact, sometimes we don't see any significant moves for months after the halving, which makes me wonder about all my normie friends on the sidelines telling me they missed out on Bitcoin and how they're so late to the game. It's pointless to jump in now, isn't it? But it's not their fault. They haven't battled it out. In the bear market like we have, they don't have any reasonable expectations of growth because they haven't seen any parabolic moonshots in their whole lives. They don't know why Bitcoin is so important, but they will. And unfortunately for them, it may be too late. If they think they're too late at 42K, how are they gonna feel at 100K? If there's a learning curve for your average normie that allows them to see past what they've missed and into the tech behind all of this, a trapdoor they fall down and realize their entire concept of money and how banks work or don't work comes and wakes them the F up. Sometimes I'm not even sure they're capable of waking up. A lot of them are bug-snugged in a cozy, easy paycheck, middle-class monotony whose satisfied needs no longer motivate, whose blind trust an expectation of a cradle-to-grave nanny state is good enough for them. And for most of our parents, it was good enough for them. In fact, it was better than good. It was great. The system worked for them, you might say. But that system is breaking down, and it's breaking down fast. It's not going to be pretty, and for most, it'll be more than they can bear. But all we can do is try to tell them, to warn them what's coming and what they can do to protect that wealth, if any, they may have left. It gets tiring sometimes saying the same thing over and over to them, hoping it will click. You can't save them all. They will buy Bitcoin at the price they deserve. We all do. And it won't feel too late to them because they will be scrambling out of sheer necessity to get some. If they even can, and when they do finally acquire some, they will feel as lucky as we feel now, knowing that we've all been able to protect ourselves and our families. We are all late when compared to the lucky early adopters in the 2000 and teens. But soon they will call you lucky. They will ask, how did you know to get in so early? They'll say it must be nice to have bought Bitcoin at 30, 40, 50K, and you'll smile to yourself and think, actually, yes, it was pretty nice. Thank you. Would you look at that, my friends? The sun's up. Another beautiful day here on planet Earth, a day none of us are guaranteed. We're not guaranteed these days, but we're lucky enough to have them anyway. So get out there and knock them dead. And remember, we're playing the same game as our psychopathic elected leads. That's right, it's the long game. So zoom out and have a fantastic day. And we'll be going live right away, so grab yourself a coffee. Join me for a quick one. And please, by all means, sing it with me now. Around the banks of boom dash bang, Bitcoin, crypto, morning tea. Hey, whoa, cha-cha-cha-ching. You know, the interesting, there's no price here. What's going on here? Of course, I didn't click the 112 box. There it is. The interesting thing about these videos and making them is that when I wake up, good morning, Scotty Bo. When I wake up at 4 a.m., I honestly have zero clue what I'm going to do or say or talk about, especially when the market hasn't moved, right? If I know there was a big move the night before and say like, I'll probably do we talked about this video that will, put some content through the video. But I honestly have zero plan. And so, of course, when I get down into the studio and I look at the charts and I'm like, nothing's actually changed in 24 hours, maybe even 3 months. I just put one foot on my pen, metaphorically speaking, in front of another, and I just start writing. And as I didn't realize it till I was watching that I wrote myself out of all TA. It's like it started with TA. And then I guess I just started writing about, the concept of these normies and how it's all relative, right? So we're sitting here in this channel of monotony, just bored, right? It's like the market's not doing anything. There's still the majority of people who are sitting on the sidelines thinking, well, it's 42K. I missed it. It's, what am I going to do? Because they probably still think in order to get you have to get a Bitcoin, right? So it's like, well, I didn't buy a car for the past 10 years, so I'm not going to go ahead and buy a Bitcoin. However, the car was your first mistake to buy it. All that money's gone. But that's neither here nor there. They probably think it's $42,000 for a Bitcoin. I don't have it. They don't know that they can DCA in at $500 and look at it as a piggy bank to protect yourself from the coming collapse whenever that happens. And when I start thinking about the collapse, I wonder how it can play out. Like, what, is it going to be fast and hard? Is it going to, or slowly, then all of a sudden? An interesting thing about this week that most people don't know, and I always harp on this great taking, this book, the thing I did the audio book to, because I feel it is part of why Bitcoin is so important. It may be the most important part about Bitcoin is outlined in this great taking book, which I did the audio book. I put it in the description if you want to take a listen to it. If you haven't listened to it, it's so important to understand what's going on here, because it puts your not that anyone loses their conviction for Bitcoin or anything. It's like people losing their conviction for Bitcoin is like people thinking Gretzky in the 80s is he's not gonna win any Stanley Cups. He's probably no good. It's hard to lose your conviction, but this just puts it to another stratosphere, because essentially what's happening this week is that South Dakota has made a move to stop the Great Taking. Now, most people would think, well, who cares? But it gets so more interesting when you go down this South Dakota rabbit hole, and the reason why they're trying to stop it. Because if I were to nutshell the Great Taking, essentially it is the concept of you'll own nothing and be happy is already here. So most people think, well, how are they going to do that? They're not going to take these things. I own this, I own that, I own this, I own that. The truth is they already took it. You don't own any of it. And you might be thinking, well, I do own my house outright. No, you own the deed to it. It's called like a beneficiary's entitlement, right? But someone holds that entitlement, and the person who you thought hold it, which was the bank, let's say, it doesn't hold it either. It's in the trust of all trusts, the DTCC, Depository Trust Clearing Corporation. It's a trust that holds all of the stocks, all of the claims, the mortgages, everything. It's held there, and it's all going to be used as collateral for the coming collapse. So the fact that South Dakota, and the reason why South Dakota, Dave Digital, please write a book report, at least 2,500 words summarizing said book for the boutique community. It's funny you say that, Dave, because I've thought about doing that. I've thought about taking the video and editing it into like juicy parts, but that would take forever. I just might do it because I do think it's the most important book maybe since what is that book called? It's the scariest book in the world, The Creature from Jekyll Island. Yes. That it's the second most important book about how money works since The Creature from Jekyll Island. So maybe I will do that. However, the interesting thing about South Dakota is what has happened in the Great Taking, unbeknownst to most everyone, is that when it comes to trusts, they amended the concept of having it in perpetuity. So let's say the Rothschilds, so to speak, they could put a trust and it never ended. So when the dad died, it just went down and forever. And that's why these families have been able to maintain their wealth and their power and their property and their assets through millennia because of this trust in perpetuity. But they changed that. So it's something about 100 years plus, I think 20. And that's how long a trust can be around before it has to be canceled and started again, right? But it doesn't go in perpetuity. Now, South Dakota has caught wind of the Great Taking. And the reason why South Dakota has caught wind of the Great Taking is that it is a wealthy trust. I don't want to say offshore because it's not offshore, but there's a ton of weird rules in South Dakota that makes creating a trust there very important. And so a lot of the U.S. wealth and foreign wealth create trusts in South Dakota. And why this is so fascinating is because that means the people, the super wealthy elite, and they're only elite in fiat currency, right? But they realize, well, in order to keep my fiat currency at this level, apparently it's not mine. And of course, anyone with fiat currency isn't it? They don't own it anyway. But they have bought assets. And now all those mega elite, the billionaires that have trust in South Dakota in particular, because of the certain laws in South Dakota, they're realizing, well, wait a second. Are you telling me that I don't have any of these assets? And so some of them have done their due diligence and put their lawyers on this. It's like, listen, let's figure this out here. There's this book going around saying that I don't got any of these things that I got. So can you get back to me in a couple days? And so the lawyers went out, they did their due diligence, and they came back and said, yeah, Mr. Moneybags, apparently this is real. Well, you don't really own any of this. You have access to it, and you can buy, sell, trade, and have a dividend from it, but you don't actually own it. It is in the DTCC, turns out. And so they went, well, we're going to stop this. And so now South Dakota, I guess, has put pressure on the politicians, because obviously the politicians are clueless. They don't know. They're just on the government dole, inside trading. They're okay. They don't even care. And so now they're going to try to put a stop to the great taking, which means everything in South Dakota will become a registered security entitlement that's too big to fail. So right now, everything that you and I own is in the DTCC, but it gets collateralized to like JP Morgan and the banks that are too big to fail. That's what's happening to all of our stuff. But now when the rules change in South Dakota, they will be considered, even though they're not, too big to fail. And they will be protected from. So what would happen is that everything would go into bankruptcy, and the secured creditors, which are the banks that are too big to fail, would take everything, all your stocks, all your homes, all your property, everything as collateral for the 2.4 quadrillion derivatives market that's going to implode. So now South Dakota, because it's the home of so many billionaires' trusts, are going to stay solvent, so to speak. It's protected, just like any trust. So if you had a trust right now, and your house was in it, all this stuff was in it, and you went bankrupt personally, they couldn't go, well, we're going to sell off all your assets. It's like, well, I don't have any assets. It's like, well, what about all the stuff you had? Well, it's that the trust owns it. And so the trust is protected. And this information is out there, but it's hard to find. I watched this guy named Parallel Mike, who's, I think, from Britain. He's the one that I found out about the Great Taking. He was the first one to kind of talk about it. Morning, Christopher. And so if you want to find out some amazing information that you didn't know you had to know, Parallel Mike. I think it's Parallel Mike. Anyway, yeah. And if you haven't listened to the audiobook on your phone or on your way to work, I left the link in the description. I also left the link to the children's album, all the bubbles in the world. So if you have kids, if you click that link, I think it'll take you to my website where you can just listen to it. Right? It won't play all the way. It won't play in succession, but you can play each song if you have kids. And the songs that Duke sings are on there as well. Dave Digital, too big to fail, no longer exists. AI will see all humans equally. If AI wants to get rid of one of us, it will get rid of all of us equally. Yeah, well, I actually think that term, all men are equal under the law, is like a nice hallmark card for us plebs, right? We think that, hey, we're all equal under the law. But I know that, or we all know that that's not how this world works. There's many people that are above the law, especially those who own these trusts. So that's another wormhole. Dave Digital, great to hear you on X Spaces last night. That's right. Yes, I did an X Space or Spaces with Sam Price, Crypto Lifer, and it was so bizarre because Dave Digital and Crypto Billy 111 were telling me to come check that out. And when I was invited last week, but it was slightly out of my bedtime zone, right? And I have to go to bed around 8:39 because I could get up at 4. And I said I would try to do it tonight, I think. I'm not sure if it's still on. But then last night, Sam messaged me at 7. Hey, I'm doing this thing. You want to come join? And I'm like, well, hey,
it's before my window of bedtime. Yeah, so let's do it. So the weird serendipity of it all, right? And then I get onto the space, and it's all about manifestation and creating your future, and serendipity, so to speak. And I thought, well, isn't this weird? We've never talked, Sam and I, and he just appears at 7:00 the one time I can do it. And it was a pretty entertaining take on his life. And if you are in that lane where you believe that your thoughts are creating your future, you'll really love this space, because it goes really deep into it. And if you will find similarities to John, you'll find now it's gone. You'll find similarities between some of the things you do and how everything manifests itself. But I'm a firm believer that manifestation behind the engine is hard work, right? So it makes sense when you're working really hard towards a goal that it manifests, So it it ends up coming to fruition based on your hard work. Which is always the backbone of anything happening. Will Bird, I got my mother to put everything she owns into a trust last year. Cost $8,500, but it was worth it. Her assets are no longer her own, but they never were. It is an illusion. That's right. You got to ask yourself, how much of everything that you thought you knew is an illusion? I'm always amazed, to find out that essentially that I've been lied to my whole life about everything, from how money works, the education system, what you should do with your life, how you should invest. That was all lies. I had to find this out all by myself. It was like a baby deer who could barely talk, or barely walk in the woods, trying to find out how the hard world really worked. Thank God. I mean, I think that's the way all of you have come to this community, is that you had to figure something out. It was like a sixth sense saying something's not right here. I've plugged the ticket. I've stamped the ticket that I was told would work. And now, Jen Friesen, good morning. She's usually not on the live. She's the stage manager there at the old Jimmy. You stamped the ticket, you've done everything right, but things aren't working, and the harder you work, the harder it gets. And then you realize, because I'm doing it wrong. And that's what I've learned in my adult life, is that you almost have to take everything they say, and do the opposite. And I found out that doing that has served me well. And it's just basically when, if I'm at someone's house or at the squash club, there's the TV on, and the CNN or whatever, all the old guys are watching it, nodding their heads. I get the information I get out of there is that, is I know what they're saying is all lies, right? So it affects my decisions just by, watching it. Squeaky McGee, not disagreeing, but who backs up these laws that back up the trusts? Well, this is where it gets really weird, and now I'm going out on the speculative risk curve here, because there comes a point where a lot of the things or the what's in print and what you think is legal, it hits dead ends, right? And my speculative theory is that these millennium secret societies that have existed since organized humanity. Oh, snap. If I forget what I was talking about, try to remind me, organized humanity or something like that. So we got a super chat. Yon J35T, he's a pianomattyb OG. He says, Piano B, you light up my life. You fire up On my weekends with your tickling keys, and your daily show is my delight. Well, isn't that nice? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jan J35T. I appreciate that. Organized humanity out on the risk curve. Speculative theory, yes, that these secret societies, the ones that, hey buddy, I was just about to get into it. I guess we'll have to save that one.
What?
I was just, this is what I'm going to do for sure, Duke. I'm turning on this piano.
I can't hear it.
Yes, you can.
I can.
Yes, you can. Okay, buddy. Let's do some shout outs. Ready? Let's do the first one. Jan J35T.
Jan J35T.
Jen Friesen.
Jen Friesen.
Misco.
Misco.
And Terry Crow.
Terry Crow.
And Das Peach.
Das Peach.
And Christopher.
Christopher.
Swashbuckling Scallywag.
Swashbuckling Scallywag.
And Higher Power ICT.
High power.
Dave Digital, the goat.
The goat.
Dave Digital.
The goat.
BC Elf.
BC Elf.
And Ava Angel.
Ava Angel.
Last but not least, Sneaky Pete Vaporizers.
Sneaky Pete Vaporizers. Is that the bar?
That's Viddy Boo Boos. He invented Ethereum amongst his buddies and whatnot. Okay, sing us out, my boy.
We're playing the same game as our psychopathic collectors. That's why it's a long game. So zoom out and have a fantastic day. You want the banks of boom display, Bitcoin, crypto, and tea.
You forgot one more. David Sony Music. Make sure you say
David Sony Music.
And finally, Randy a Bite wants to know, are you bullish or bearish?
Boys.
Bullish? How come?
I don't know.
Because the Solana's a little hiccup? Is that why? No? Okay. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.
Make sure you like and subscribe.